Welcome to My Life, My Business Club. And our theme is around Wish I Was Here, which means we talk about engagement. And currently, we are continuing with our series on um, talking and discussing about the unconventional wisdom for a joyful life. And we're discussing principle number 32 today. And this one is really, it's not as controversial, but it's really something that needs to sink deep into our consciousness, and so that we certainly, if applied, we really can feel empowered in our lives. So principle 32 today is: the greatest freedom is the freedom of choice. And so in the drama of life, we always have a choice. Now, I'm putting it out there, and of course, we can dispute this if you like. But what happens to those who forget that we always have a choice become victims to life circumstances. So, you become, your life, you lose that locus of control to external matters, to the environment around you. And the environment around you dictates how you experience life. So we don't want to be forgetful. We want to know that choice is the freedom to see things as we desire. And I just want to pause there, and it's interesting, and it's quite profound not to see things as others desire around you. And others could be close family, friends, society, business colleagues, bosses, and the like. But it is to truly experience that vision that we have of the things as we desire, and to feel what it is we want, and to live as we create our lives to be. So in each moment, we choose how we want to experience life. And at the same time, we want to remember to always help others to do the same. Now, we know that we cannot control external circumstances, all right? We cannot even control how others perceive life. However, the good news is we can control our own perceptions of life. And I've been using this framework for so long, but I will stick with this framework. Is how we see life is our choice. And so some broad categories in terms of some of the filters that we apply. We can see life as a victim, meaning that our external circumstances absolutely dictate how we experience life. And so primarily emotionally, we therefore have the sense of hopelessness and helplessness. And um, just feeling extremely powerless to change anything fundamentally as we see the future, and becoming resigned to life. Whatever will be, will be. So if that's the case, why even attempt to change anything? Life makes a choice for you. Another level is to be in this constant fight against perceived threats. Everything in your environment is a threat, and you see it as such. And when it comes to people, everybody's out to get you and cannot be trusted. So it's you against the rest of the world, and if you don't protect yourself, no one will. And so life is always experienced in sort of constant conflict. fighting for your survival, fighting to be heard, fighting to clamber over others in order to get ahead in life. You can also choose to zoom your focus in on personal success. That becomes your primary filter. And you make the decision that you take responsibility for achieving your goals and you take responsibility for how you feel, right? That willingness just to forgive others and yourself, the willingness to rationalize bad behavior in order to cooperate with others to ensure and assure success. And this choice brings you to the place of such firm determination to succeed when the goal is in sight and reachable. You can also choose to be a servant leader, to lead with compassion, to exhibit a strong desire to serve others and help others succeed. Because as you see them succeed, you experience a sense of success. So your filter here is driven by such a compassion to help others get to achieve their goals and to support them wherever necessary. So it then ties itself back into being of service and inspiring others through service. Um, Another choice you can make as well is to accept people and situations for who and what they are, and therefore, you know, operate from a place of peace rather than one of anxiety steeped in judgment and condemnation. It is where you seek the opportunity for everyone to benefit, regardless of the situation or the person. And the mindset here is there's always something to be gained, and benefits can either be direct or indirect. This form of inspirational leadership can effectively sell the benefits of the future for all concerned and not at the expense of some. And so this filter primarily is opportunistic and says the mantra is the situation is just a situation. The person is just a person. Well, another choice in the way you perceive life can also center on who you're with matters most to you. And basically, to personalize is who I am with, who I'm doing life with matters most. And so we are one with them and they are one with us. We are connected and bonded and therefore effectively blended. You don't see a sum of individuals, but you see a collective, a whole, a unity. And the words is quite powerful in a way that when you are blended in this way, you would view someone else's success as your success. Contrary to previously, when somebody is successful, you feel successful. No, this is success that we're talking about in this view, from this point of view, is you claim it as if you did it yourself, as if you have achieved it yourself. So there is a blend. So whether it's not Jacques, if Jacques has done it, so and achieved it, it just means that Shanaz has achieved it as well. And there's also another thought surrounding this blending of relationships is representation. You represent me and I represent you. And therefore, we are not afraid to try new things. We are much less afraid of failure. We see the big picture, and we absolutely take a leap of faith when it is required. And then, lastly, just a point of view that you can take. And you know what? It's a point of view. And what did we say? The freedom of choice is what we're talking about today. And it is the greatest freedom. And so, here at this level, you see the world is perfect. Nothing stops you from seeing the world as perfect. And by the way, seeing people as perfect. And I know I'm like a stuck record. I did say I've shared this framework before. And I know people immediately go into judgment mode and go, but people aren't perfect. The world isn't perfect. It's very flawed. And can't you see the blemishes? You see, it is your choice to be or to strive to be non-judgmental. This is where living our purpose and our calling is our success. And who I am being is far more important than what I am doing. So, point is, there's these 7 areas that I've just outlined here. And basically, just to remind you, is that how we see life is our choice. In your hands, I mean, if you can just imagine this, in your hands, if you look into your hands, you'll see, imagine um, spectacles or lenses or glasses, whichever way you want to look at it. The color of those lenses is completely up to you. You can see the world through gray tinted lenses, or you could see them through rose tinted lenses. People would say, but the reality is, yes, the reality is as we see it. And reality is, yes, it becomes a fact, but it isn't a fact. It's what we believe it to be. So it's your choice. I can choose to wear rose tinted lenses in my glasses. And if I see everything as rosy, and therefore I see the glasses half full, I see a world of possibilities rather than a world of lack. I see goodness rather than I see evil. I wake up in the morning quite differently, isn't it? Because if I see the world as grey and doomed, everything follows suit. My feelings, my emotions, and therefore my behavior lines itself up to my emotions, governed by these filters, perceptions, name it what you like, your perspectives, right? And literally your perspectives do color your world. The world and life is undiscerning. It doesn't matter what your station in his life, it just treats you the same. Now you, depending on your means, you can cushion life better. But you still have the greatest freedom of all, is the freedom of choice of how you view your life. Your attitude to what your situation is completely up to you. Now I growing up, when somebody said to me, but listen, um, nobody can make you angry. It is your choice. I didn't believe that, because I would definitely say categorically and prove it, you know, that I somebody made me angry. You know, in this very simplistic way, I have understood that nobody can make me angry. To become angry, whether I do it by default or by choice, it is still, and the default that I'm referring to is unconscious choice. So it's choice, regardless. It's unconscious choice or conscious choice, if we put it this way. It is my choice. Nobody can make me be anything that I'm not willing to be. The choice lies within me. So, yes, to sum up, we can and I want to say that again, we can control our own perceptions of life and how we respond to it. Now, I don't know if you're listening to this podcast whether you're going to agree or disagree, but I tell you now, we can. I am saying it with a lot of confidence. We can control our own perceptions of life. And therefore, you can enjoy every season of life. You know, whether you're just starting out in life, or whether you are ending your life, whether you at the end of it where you actually retiring, or you have retired, um, you can enjoy every part of it, every single season of it, because it all depends on your choice of view. Now, there's a quote. I want to end with this quote by William Jennings Bryan, who says, "Destiny is no matter of chance; it is a matter of choice. It is not a thing to be waited for; it is a thing to be achieved." So yes, um, the greatest freedom is the freedom of choice. So now, what do you think?
Hi, Jacques. I love what you said. And I think it was just a situation that at work that I can kind of apply it now, and just seeing how I initially responded to it. So that idea of who I love what you said, that I don't know whose quote it was. Who I am being is more important than what I'm doing. So and it ties in with that choice, how I perceive things. So I started the new team that I'm in, quite late in COVID. Started a new job, and I got left with all the leftover courses that no one wants to teach, and the big classes. And then things got okay, and I was completely overloaded. And then I get this discussion with my team manager, wanted to see if I'd be willing to, because I've got so many things happening. He wants to give some of the work to someone else, a new member of the team. And I was like, okay, so how would this affect my career progression? And I was taken a bit aback by some of his comments. I didn't kind of respond immediately, but behind, because this team happens to have a toxic history, I was immediately kind of caught up in that pattern in my thinking initially. But as I started to speak and think about the situation, I realized my purpose, that I was not meant to be invested fully in one career. That's why I have a side business. I know my purpose in life is not to be tied emotionally and psychologically 24/7 to a university, which is very much the profile of my team. And you know and I need to I do not want that for myself. And then I was looking at my values as a social worker, and realized that, what, who I am, and regardless of whether they see me as a generalist and not a specialist, and you need to be a specialist if you want to be in this team. So I kind of decided that what I do and what I stand for within my values, and what I end up doing and being, is more important than what I'm going to teach. And yeah, that kind of really, I realize I need to choose and see this as an opportunity to make partnerships across disciplines, where I have similar values, like people who see the work in the same way that I see. And so, maybe that means I'm going to have to step across departments and disciplines to form those collaborative partnerships, and not see this as him trying to maneuver me into the team in a corner. Yeah,
Well,
sorry.
that's actually quite powerful, because what it says is that, you know what, you cannot account for anybody else's motives, and you can't control their motives, etc., and what it is That whole big question of what is in for them, that what's in it for me kind of a thing, story. But despite other people's motives, is that taking that step back, as you said, is, well, what's important to me, what is my purpose, irrespective of the context in which you're in, and everybody's sort of standards. At the end of the day, is to do so. But and I just want to kind of bring that in and really get your thoughts around. I think the principles that will resonate, some of the principles, but I really want to ask you if you think that the greatest freedom is the freedom of choice. I mean, is that really true?
Yes, I do believe that, and I think that I can choose to see this as an opportunity, or I can choose to continue in the toxic patterns of the team and form alliances and get into trouble, and not get into trouble, but I can, where there's this conspiracies going on and people are fighting and juggling for position. Or I can choose to see this as an opportunity to do interdisciplinary research, to do things that I enjoy. And the choice, I have the choice then, of choosing to see that my values and my purpose is beyond a university. And at this university, that people struggle with that, because it's a prestigious one, so everybody wants to, you should be happy and devote yourself 24/7 to this job. But that's not who I am. So
Yeah, and it's liberating, isn't it? If you know that you have choice. Now, people look at what I do and they would say, "All right, you really, you're self-employed, and therefore you're your own boss. You can really do, or you can make those decisions. You can go where you want to go. You can go when you want to go, and you can pursue an approach exactly the way you want." But you know, here's the thing: is that I often talk about. Sometimes when I listen to people a lot, I get this picture of a cage. Now I call it a golden cage, and I often point people to the entrance, the door to the cage, and I say, just look very carefully. You will see that the key is on the inside of the cage, not on the outside. When we feel imprisoned, um, in our situations, look carefully at the cage and see that the key is on the inside. Turn the key and step out of your cage. Now, someone will give me a wisecrack and say, "But what if you're in a real cage in real prison?" Well, it is still your mind that is free to roam wherever it needs to go. Your mind does not need to be imprisoned, even though your physical constraints may place you in a box. You don't have to be in a box, and that is where you can exercise choice. I mean, uh, a simplistic uh, joke that or I don't know if it's a joke because I'm not sure if it's that funny. But often, when to illustrate the point, people say, "Send Johnny in the corner. Johnny is supposed to be as punishment. Johnny must look like he's being punished. He's in the corner and he has to face the corner. But Johnny is radiating with fun and pleasure and is looking like he's enjoying his thing." So, question to Johnny: Johnny, you being punished? Why do you look happy? Well, I'm standing in a corner, but I'm outside. I'm running in the fields. His mind is not trapped in the corner, and growing up with that story is for me, as simplistic as what it is basically generally looking at life in this way, is realizing, despite the physical circumstances, the context in which we all find ourselves in, we don't have to allow our minds and our mindsets to be imprisoned as well. We can be free of the circumstances, look beyond the circumstances. and not to be constrained by the circumstances. But more often than not, and in Shanaz, in your example, is look for the silver lining in the circumstances. Because if you look for him, you'll find them. It's, it's actually quite crazy what we attract. So if we look for doom and gloom, guess what? You're going to find it. I'm convinced you will. But if you look for the good in the circumstances that you find yourself in, you will find the good. There's always something that you can find. And I suppose in that context, as I was thinking about it, for somebody who's going to be listening to this podcast, is to say, listen, everyone has got something to be thankful about. Something. If you're alive, you've got something to be thankful about. And so everybody has the freedom of choice, not just wealthy people, educated people, powerful people, famous people. No, everybody has the freedom of choice, irrespective of your circumstances, irrespective of the station of life that you hold. And it's not your status that determines the freedom that you have, because the greatest travesty is to allow your mind to become imprisoned and to just paint yourself into that corner and be in the corner and not see yourself beyond the corner. And which then also brings me to another analogy, which I'm sure I irritate a lot of people with, is that this bend management, I'm not even sure if I shared, I probably did share on Clubhouse as well. But bend management is also something that I talk about. And it is, if you focus on the bend in your life, the probability is that you will hit the bend. And if you don't hit the bend, you will slow your life down to a standstill and you will lose momentum. So that's what the bend can do if that's your focus. Rather, look beyond the bend in your life. And how you do that is to come up with a powerful vision, and even to go further than that, to say, come up with a powerful dream for your life. Now, I don't care if the synonym in your head pops into being a fantasy. No, no, I'm talking about that alternative situation that you so desire. Focus on that and see the opportunity being presented in every single circumstance. You have the freedom of choice to do exactly that in every single situation. And that's where I conclude with this afternoon's talk. Shanaz, any last thoughts?
Thank you, Jacques. That was so inspirational. I'll keep it for the week ahead. And I'm reminded of Steve Biko that said, the greatest enemy of the oppressed is not the oppressor, but the mind of the oppressed. And so we can, it's our mind that keeps us oppressed often. And that's our greatest enemy. So, yeah. So I'll be thinking of that this week. But thank you so much. Really been inspired.
Ah, thank you, Shanaz. That's a beautiful quote to end things with. Have a great week. Until next time.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Bye.